To continue with our discussion, we have learned previously that job analysis could help us to be able to also establish the job description and also the job specification of a particular worker. Now, we are able to also differentiate these two terms. First, job description pertains to the different tasks, procedures, responsibilities, even the outcomes of a particular job position. And when we talk about job specification, it is merely talking about the specific requirements and qualifications of the person in order for us to find a better suited person or personnel who will be filling up the position. Now, at this part, let's try to also learn the different methods in also doing job analysis. A variety of methods and procedures are available for conducting job analysis, including observational techniques, examination of existing data on jobs, interview techniques, and also surveys, to name a few. In certain methods, such as interviewing, the data may be obtained from a variety of sources, such as the job incumbent, meaning the person who is currently holding or performing the job. We may also consult the supervisory personnel who previously may have performed the work in the organization. Or we could also consult outside experts. Moreover, different job analysis methods are often used in combination to produce a detailed and accurate description of a certain job. Now, moving forward, first let's go to observations. Now, the observational method, these are methods of job analysis that are those in which trained job analysts gather information about a particular job. To do this, the analyst usually observes the job incumbent at work for a period of time. Job analysts may also make use of the videos to record work behavior for more detailed analysis. Typically, in observational analysis, the observer takes detailed notes on the exact tasks and duties being performed. However, to make accurate observations, the job analyst must know what to look for. Like, for example, a subtle or a quick movement, but one that is important to the job, might go unnoticed. Also, if the job is highly technical or complex, the analyst may not be able to also observe some of the critical aspects, such as thinking or decision making processes. Observational techniques usually work best with jobs involving manual operations like machine or operating a machine, repetitive tasks, or other easily seen activities. As I have previously described, when one is also operating a machine like a sewing machine, it is much simpler than describing a job of a computer technician. And because much of the computer technician's job involves cognitive processes that are also involved in troubleshooting computer problems. With observational techniques, it is important that the times selected for observation are representative of the worker's routine, especially if the job requires that the worker would be engaged in different tasks during different times of the day, the week, or the year. Like, for example, an accounting clerk may deal with payroll vouchers on Thursdays, may spend most of the Fridays updating sales figures, and maybe almost completely occupied with preparing a company's tax record during the month of January. But one concern regarding observational methods is whether there is the presence of the observer in some way influencing the worker's performance. If you remember the Hawthorne effect, there is always a chance that workers will perform their jobs differently simply because they know that they are being watched. Now let's go to participation. This is another analysis method or job analysis method that in some instances a job analyst may want to actually perform a particular job or job operation to get a first-hand understanding of how the job is being performed. Like for example, several years ago, some researchers would get themselves involved in conducting a job analysis of workers performing delicate microassembly operations. And these microassemblers were working with fitting together extremely tiny electrical components. And the only way to gain an understanding and appreciation for the fine hand-eye coordination or hand-eye coordination required to perform the job was to attempt to do the task themselves. Now, another job analysis method is using the existing data. Most large established organizations usually have some information or records that can be used in the job analysis, such as the previous job analysis for the position or an analysis of a related job. Such data might also be borrowed from another organization that has conducted analysis of similar jobs. Like the human resources professionals often exchange information with professionals at other organizations. And in addition, government sources such as the US Department of Labor might provide data that can assist in a specific job analysis. Existing data should always be checked to make sure it conforms the job as it currently is being performed and to determine if the existing data accounts for the inclusion of the new technology in the job. Interviews are another method of job analysis, and they could be open-ended, or they can also involve structured or standardized questions. And because any one source of information can be biased, the job analyst may want to get more than one perspective by interviewing the job incumbent, meaning the person who is currently in the position, and the incumbent's supervisor. And if the job is a supervisory one, then they may also include the incumbent's subordinates in the interview process. Now, the job analyst might also interview several job incumbents within a single organization. This is also to get a more reliable presentation or representation of the job and to see whether various people holding the same job title in a company actually perform similar tasks. So they are bound to also check if these duties and responsibilities of the incumbent or those who are currently performing the task are the same. So this goes like a compilation of many different information through interviewing the different incumbent workers. Now let's go to surveys. Survey is actually also a method of job analysis usually involved through administering a pencil and paper questionnaire that the respondent completes and returns to the job analyst. Surveys can consist of open-ended questions, closed-ended ones, and also checklists. The survey method has two advantages over the interview method. First, the survey allows the collection of information from a number of workers simultaneously. So you could be able to give questionnaires or survey questionnaires to a lot of people or workers and be able to also get the data right away whenever you need them. And the second advantage is that because survey can be anonymous, there may be little distortion or withholding of information than in a face-to-face interview. But one of the drawbacks of the survey, however, is that the information obtained is limited by the questions asked. Unlike in an interview, a survey cannot probe or any additional information cannot be obtained or clarified after the respondent has given a particular response. Often in conducting job analysis, job incumbents or knowledgeable supervisors of job incumbents are referred to as subject matter experts or SMEs who can actually provide the job analysis information via interviews or through the survey method. Now, another method of job analysis is also what we call as the job diary. It's another method for job analysis because workers are likely to record their daily activities in a diary. The advantage of a job diary is that it provides a detailed hour by hour, day by day account of the worker's job. Whenever the worker would be able to log detailed information about how he has or she has performed the job. One difficulty of the diary methods, however, is that it is quite time consuming, both for the worker who is keeping the diary and for the job analyst who has the task of analyzing the large amount of information contained in the diary. In addition to the various general methods for conducting job analysis, there are a number of specific standardized analysis techniques. These techniques have not only been widely used but have also generated a considerable amount of research on their effectiveness. Now we will go into the four specific techniques, namely the job element method, the critical incidents technique, the position analysis questionnaire, and also the functional job analysis. First, we have the job element method. This method of job analysis looks at the basic knowledge, skills, abilities, or other characteristics, or the KSAOs, that are required to perform a particular job. These KSAOs constitute the basic job elements. In the job element method, the job analyst relies on experts or the SMEs who are informed about the job to identify the job elements or the KSAOs required for a given job. The experts then rate or rank the different elements in terms of their importance for performing the job. The job element method is person-oriented, or we say personality-based, in that it focuses on the characteristics of the individual who is performing the job. And this method has been used most often in jobs in the federal government. Because of its limited scope, the job element method is often combined with other job analysis methods outlined in the next or succeeding techniques. Now, moving forward, we will now be having the second specific technique, which is called the critical incidents technique. The critical incidents technique, or the CIT, of job analysis records the specific worker behaviors that have led to particularly successful or unsuccessful performance. Like, for example, some critical incidents for the job of clerical assistant might include the following: possess knowledge of word processing programs, notices an item in a letter or a report that doesn't appear to be right, and then the worker checks it and corrects it. Another example is that the misfiles of charts, letters on a regular basis. So basically, you are just trying to identify some critical incidents that have led to the worker being able to successfully or unsuccessfully perform the job. And all these behaviors presumably contribute to the success or failure of the clerical assistant. Now, research indicates that information is best provided by experts on the job, that careful qualitative analysis methods should be used. And therefore, information on critical incidents is obtained by questioning, either through interviews or questionnaires given to job incumbents, job supervisors, or other knowledgeable individuals. And through the collection of hundreds of critical incidents, the job analyst can arrive at a very good picture of what a particular job and its successful performance is all about. So the real value of the CIT is in helping to determine a particular knowledge, skills, and abilities that a worker needs to perform a job successfully. Like, for example, from the critical incidents given for the clerical assistant position, we know that the successful worker will need to know how to file, use a word processing program, check basic grammar and sentence structure, and set up a typed manuscript page. The CIT technique is also useful in developing appraisal systems for certain jobs by helping to identify the critical components of successful performance. And in fact, in the recent results of CIT analysis in the analysis have been used to teach best practices in professional levels, including medicine, counseling, and customer service. So if you are hearing people about them meeting up and trying to also consider talking about the best practices, that is also part of the critical incidents technique, where someone gets to also, or the job analyst gets to list the many different behaviors and job performances that went successful, and they are also included in the job analysis process. Now, the third specific job analysis technique is what we call as the position analysis questionnaire. It is a job analysis technique that uses a structured questionnaire to analyze jobs according to 187 job statements. And these job statements are grouped into six categories. Now, one of the most widely researched job analysis instruments is the PAQ, which is a structured questionnaire that includes the following categories or divisions. First is the information input. So you would know that there are workers need to be knowledgeable about the kind of job that they need to perform. So there should be a source where they get to also know some important information about the job that they would like to also apply for. So for example, A newspaper reporter may be required to use published written materials as well as interviews with informants to write a news story. Another example is a clothing inspector's information input may involve fine visual discriminations of garment seams. So this is the information input. You, as a worker, must be able to know what are the necessary inputs that are needed or information that are needed for you to perform the job. Another division or category are the mental processes. These are the kinds of thinking, reasoning, and decision making required to perform the job. Like, for example, an air traffic controller must make many decisions about when it is safe for jets to land and to also take off. The same with a traffic enforcer. They must be able to know when it is safe to also guide and give signals for the motorists as they go and stop. Third is we have work output. These are the tasks that the worker must perform and the tools or machines needed. Like, for example, a word processor must enter text using keyboard devices. Fourth is that we have relationships with other persons. The kinds of relationships and contacts with others required to do the job. For example, a teacher instructs others, and a store clerk has contact with customers by providing information and ringing up purchases. Fifth is we have the job context, or the physical and other social contexts in which the work is performed. Like, for example, we have workers that are also dealing with high temperatures or having to also be involved in many conflicting situations. And then the sixth and final category for PAQ is the other job characteristics, which refer to the other relevant activities, conditions, or characteristics necessary to do the job. And each of these job elements is individually rated using these 6 categories, which pertain to the extent of use, importance to the job, amount of time, applicability, possibility of occurrence, and also a special code for the miscellaneous job elements. So the standard elements are rated on a scale from 1 for minor applicability and 5 for extreme applicability. Now, another specific job analysis technique is what we call as the functional job analysis, or the FJA, which has been used extensively by organizations in both the public and the private sectors. It was developed in part of the intention to assist the U.S. Department of Labor for the construction of a comprehensive job classification system and to help create the dictionary of occupational titles. FJA uses 3 broad categories representing the job's typical interaction with data, people, and things. Data refers to information, knowledge, and conceptions. Jobs are evaluated with an eye to the amount and the type of interaction the person performing the job has with data, or the numbers, the words, the symbols, and other abstract elements. When we say people, they refer to the amount of the worker's interaction with inanimate objects such as not inanimate objects, but the interactions with people. And these could be their co-workers, the supervisors, customers, or other people. While with things, they refer to the interaction with inanimate objects like tools, machines, equipments, and tangible work products. Within each category, there is a hierarchy of work functions that ranges from the most involved and complex functions using the FJA. The job of the industrial organizational psychologist requires coordinating the data, mentoring and leading people, handling things. And for the occupational part of the job analyst, the corresponding numbers also have meanings in analyzing data and also in exchanging information with people and also in handling things. Now, moving forward with our discussion, we have the job analysis and the ADA. In 1990, there is that passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, presented a new challenge to the job analysts. Now, the Title 1 of the ADA stated that in employment matters, it is illegal to discriminate against a qualified person with a disability. Such an individual is one who can perform the essential functions of a job with or without reasonable accommodation. So, like for example, persons who have disabilities are likely welcome to apply for call center agent positions because despite of their disability, they are still and they could perform the job. They are not to be discriminated, and even the physical setup of the company and premises must also adapt to the needs of the persons with disabilities, such as providing ramps and also handrails. The implementation of the ADA also requires that employers with 15 or more employees prevent employment discrimination against disabled persons, and they must also make reasonable accommodations that will allow disabled persons to perform essential job duties. And with the passage of this act, the employer may need to also construct a different type of workstation or provide a voice-activated computer for a quadriplegic worker in a wheelchair. So they need to also adjust and to adapt to the needs of the worker. Although the ADA does not require employers to conduct formal job analysis. So purely, this act is just to also give opportunities and equal opportunities and chances to our brothers and sisters who may also have some difficulties and challenges or even disabilities. Now, let's go to job evaluation and comparable worth. As we have mentioned from the beginning of this lesson, one of the products of job analysis is job evaluation, which is the process of assessing the relative value of jobs to determine appropriate compensation. Meaning, with the effort that you have given, you are likely to be given a proper compensation or an equivalent compensation. That is, the wages paid for a particular job should be related to the knowledge, the skills, abilities, and other characteristics it requires. However, a number of other variables such as the supply of potential workers, the perceived value of the job to the company, and the job's history can also influence its rate of compensation. When we talk about the compensable factors, these are the job elements that are used to determine appropriate compensation for a job. Now, the examples of the compensable factors might be the physical demands of a job. Another is the amount of education, training, or experience required. Okay? Is the worker and the job demanding for a higher educational achievement, training, and experience? And also the associated working conditions with the job. The amount of responsibility that the job carries. So there is that weighted factor or a given score for every job element. So the sum total of the weighted compensable factors indicate the value of the job, which is then translated into pesos or dollar for the amount of compensation. Now let's move forward to comparable worth. This is the notion that jobs that require equivalent knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics should be compensated equally. Now, there have been two issues in the United States, which is very rampant. We have the gender gap in wages, meaning there is that perceived higher wage among men than women. And also, with that, the comparable worth is a concept reminding us that there should be this equal pay to both men and women. Because when men are particularly doing the same job with women, back in the United States, they are likely to receive higher wages than female workers. Now, moving forward to exceptioning, it is the practice of ignoring pay discrepancies between particular jobs possessing equivalent duties and responsibilities. This is another reason for gender-based pay disparity, and it shows that there is a job evaluation that reveals that two jobs with equivalent duties and responsibilities receive very different rates of pay. Yet, no steps are taken to rectify the inequality. In other words, an exception is made because it is too costly or too difficult to raise the wages of the lower paid job. An example of exceptioning is the pay rates of the physicians and the nurses. The average salary of a physician is 3 to 5 times that of a nurse. Yet the two jobs have many comparable duties and responsibilities. Although the imbalance in salaries is known to exist, hospitals are financially unable to pay nurses what they are worth. So, an exception is also made or present. Now, moving forward to glass ceiling. Glass ceiling is the limitations placed on women and minorities, preventing them from advancing into the top level positions. If the comparable worth movement goes forward and the government decides to take steps to correctly pay inequalities, the impact on workers and work organizations will be tremendous. Job evaluations will have to be conducted for nearly all jobs in the country. Second, because it is unlikely that workers and unions will allow wages of higher paid workers to be cut, the salaries of lower paid workers will have to be raised, which is also entailing an enormous expense. And regardless of what takes place in the next several years, the issue of comparable worth has focused greater attention on job evaluations and job evaluation procedures. So it is thus likely that greater attention will be given to improving such procedures in the near future.